Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Sterling, and I'm the chief of the Interpol Firearms Directorate out of Lyon, France. And today we're going to give you an overview of iARMS, which is a brand new program that Interpol has put out that involves a record management system and a tracing system. So I wanted to introduce you, or I wanted to say hello to you and introduce myself. I've just been newly assigned over to Interpol. I came from the US. I'm an ATF agent over in the United States, and I've been in law enforcement for about 27 years now. And I've worked previously with Pete and with FTI for two years back from 2000 to 2002. And tomorrow I get a chance to talk to you about our whole program that we have as far as firearms. But today we're just going to focus on one section of the program that I supervise in Lyon. But in a minute I'm going to turn it over to Nanda, who works for me. But I wanted to say hello to you. We're going to go through the presentation, and then at the end, both of us will be available for any kind of comments or questions or anything that we can help you with. But this is, yesterday I did a talk about IPEN, and the same with iARMS. It's something that I'm new to Interpol, but I think this is really a phenomenal program that you've heard ATF talk about e-trace. I know Canada has a tracing system. But what we've created here is a tracing system that we're going to use globally that Interpol supports and gives out to all 190 member countries. So I think once you see the presentation, you realize that this is something that globally we're going to give everybody the opportunity to be able to trace weapons. I know Nanda not going to go into his presentation, but he's going to talk a little bit how we can get into countries that maybe specifically have a trace system now, so that we're not reinventing the wheel, and that we can extract maybe data from countries that currently have it, like Canada, the US, Australia. There's countries out there that currently have this technology or something similar, but we're going to do it now on a global basis. And so I think at the end of the presentation, you'll see the value of this. To me, I'm pretty excited about it. It's only been running for now for about 4 months. And the challenge is going to be, and I'm going to say this to you at the end also, is that if I can stress anything out of this whole presentation after you see it, is that we need countries to utilize it. And the data, the program, the whole concept really won't work if people don't populate it with data. And so I think the message to take away from here, once you see the presentation, once you see what this is all about, the message is when you go back, we've got to get your countries involved in this, we've got to get you to sign up, and then utilize it and populate it with data. Then we're going to be able to extract information out that will benefit you down the road. So I will turn it over to Nanda. Nanda has worked pretty diligently on this program for 2 years now. He was the creator of it. He's an IT guy, so he's very technologically sound, but he's the one that actually created the program. Him and 2 other ladies out of our office, the one I replaced was Tracy Parker. But so you've got the person that actually worked on this and created it. And Nanda may be one of the smarter guys that I know IT-wise. So again, programmatically, I can answer your questions from an IT standpoint. I can handle it, but I will turn it over to Nanda now, and then I'll talk to you guys again.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Nanda Kumar. I'm the IT project manager for the iARMS project. I started in 2011 as an IT project manager with Interpol, and I was there since the inception phase of the project. And the development of the system happened last year, starting from February 2012 until December 2012. And the system was rolled out on 1st January 2013 to all the Interpol member countries. iARMS is an information technology system which provides a common global platform for firearm-related information exchange and cooperation, namely through 2 modules. One is providing a centralized system for reporting and querying of lost, stolen, smuggled, and trafficked firearms by law enforcement agencies globally, and then facilitating the submission of and responses to international firearm trace requests, including support to monitor the status of trace requests. iARMS data will support better detection of and investigation of criminal firearms trafficking and smuggling routes, In addition, the combined analysis of IBIN and iARMS data is likely to increase significantly the ability of law enforcement agencies to prevent and combat firearm-related crime, particularly through the identification of firearms traffickers and other violent criminals. The system components. iARMS has three components. One is the firearm records management component. The second one is trace request management component. And third is a transversal component which is called statistics and reports. So we will see about each component briefly in the following slides. System features. First, iARMS is hosted in the I-24/7 platform, which is a secure communications platform of Interpol. iARMS is available in all the 4 official languages of Interpol, that is English, French, Spanish, and Arabic. Member countries could restrict one or more other countries from searching for records that belong to them. It's a one-way restriction. For example, if A restricts B from viewing A's records, A could still see B's records. So this is a restriction, access restriction mechanism that is honored through iARMS. iARMS also sends timely notifications and alerts. That is, other than the famous hit alert, we also have several other notifications in iARMS system. For example, record expiry alert, or notifications according to the changes in a trace request. For example, when a trace request is submitted, it's in an open state, so the recipient of the trace request will receive a notification through email, and when it's answered, the submitter will receive a notification through email, and then when the submitter approves the answer and closes the trace request, the recipient will again receive a notification. So iARMS will send notifications through the workflow of the system. And there is another important notification, that is what we call a hidden hit. That is a hit between 2 countries when one has blocked the other from viewing its records. In this case, Interpol will receive a hidden hit notification. This will help us to coordinate with the 2 countries in order to solve the crime. Audit traces. Each action, like create, update, delete, and search, performed by the users is logged into the system with timestamps and other relevant firearm-related record information. The system also allows efficient records management by allowing users to import and export and print records to which they have access. In contextual help, the system offers contextual help information like tooltips and forms, validation problems, warnings, and links to help pages. There is also a dedicated page from where all the user guides and manuals for accessing the system can be downloaded. So the first module, which is the firearm records management module, this is where the member countries report the lost, stolen, trafficked, and smuggled firearms. Firearm records in iARMS will include, at a minimum, 5 unique identifiers of the firearm, that is, the make, the model, the caliber, the serial number, and either the country of manufacture or the country of origin, legal import of the firearm. So trace request management is the second module. This module allows the users to manage the complete workflow of the trace request lifecycle. This component provides features like inbox and outbox for trace requests. This is similar to that of email systems. Like email, trace requests could also be resent to the same recipient or to a new recipient. We will see that in a demonstration. The users could also export the incoming and outgoing trace requests into Excel, PDF, or other formats as they go. The next module is a statistics and reports module. As you see in the screen, this is just a sample statistical report. Based on the data available in the database, we generate statistics like illicit firearms per action and number of seizures done per country, hits per country of illegal import, and traces per recipient country. This is just a sample, and we have around 100 different statistical reports like this. This is just 4 of them. The administrator of a country could download the statistics for a specific period of time in PDF or Excel formats. At IPSG, we will be able to download the global statistics. Member country roles. Role-based access control was implemented for this system. The users could have one or more roles. These roles are non-overlapping in terms of actions allowed in the system. First, the administrator configures the national parameters. This is normally the national security officer of the country who works at the NCP. For example, the maximum period of retention of the records in the database is one of the parameters that the administrator configures, because this has to align with the rules for processing of data of that particular country. And then we have the data manager role. So this user creates, updates, and deletes illicit firearm records on behalf of his or her country. And user with this role is allowed to export and print information. In the event of seizure of firearms previously reported in the database by the same country, this user can also update the status of the firearm record to be seized. Then we have the search user. This role is a classical role, is typically a border control user or a customs user. The user with this role is allowed to search the database for one or more firearms reported by other member countries. If there are no favorable results, this user will be allowed to submit a trace request on the firearm in question to the country of manufacture or country of last legal import of this firearm. And then we have the role trace request responder. This is a user that receives all the incoming trace requests and answers them on behalf of his or her country. So these roles are non-overlapping, as I said. One user could have all these roles, but we have followed the rule of separation of duties to avoid corruption. Data population. The population of data into the database is based on the size of the data that is reported. It's based on the number of records. The member countries could either fill a form, that is to create report one firearm record to be stolen, lost, smuggled, or trafficked. The users could process by batch, that is, they could enter the data into the CSV file and upload them themselves and track the status of the upload. And then at IPSG, we allow uploading in bulk, that is, when the number of records is more than 15,000, we allow you to export your database into CSV or XML format, and you can send to us. So the database experts at IPSG will be able to create a bridge that allows converting the data into a format that is accepted by the iARMS. So depending on the size of records, we allow a mode of import. So this helps the countries which already have sophisticated IT systems and a great number of records in the database, and also countries which use iARMS as their national illicit arms database. So now I will show a scenario. We call it a hit scenario. As you know, iARMS is hosted in the I-24/7 network. So let's assume in Brazil there was a firearm being stolen. John Doe, who is a data manager that belongs to Brazil, submits a report that creates a firearm record in the database. And let's say in Argentina that firearm was seized later. So here Michael Smith, who is a search user, will search the database by supplying at least 3 digits of the serial number. Searches the database, and there is a hit because there is a match of exactly what Mr. Michael Smith searched for. Though he searches with 3 digits of a serial number, he will be able to compare the make, model, caliber and the country of manufacture, legal import, and other firearm information like action and type with those in the report. So this will generate a hit, and the originating country will receive a hit notification in this case. So to demonstrate this scenario, I would like to show a video which we recorded based on the scenario using test data. So this is basically the iARMS system. So now I have logged in as a data manager from Brazil. So there is a link on the left navigation menu called create a new record. This takes to the page where the user can create a new record, and as I said earlier, there is a contextual help which allows to read about the data that they are currently filling in. The first and the most important information that is required is the serial number, and then there are make, model, and caliber, and as you see there is an auto suggest option here so that the countries do not make mistakes when they report firearm related information. And this auto suggest list has been extracted from IFRT, of which the data belongs to RCMP's FRT tables. And then we have the model and caliber. So all the models that corresponds to the make Glock is listed here. So in this case there is only one because we just used a dummy data. And then we have caliber or gauge, so 45, and we have either country of manufacture or country of legal import. One of these should be filled when reporting a firearm record. So in this case we say the country of legal import was Spain, and it's a handgun of action revolver. The status is set as stolen. The country where the firearm was lost or stolen is also filled here, and date of loss or theft is also filled. It's not a mandatory field. There is a mandatory field called official record ID. This is the police record ID for the theft of this firearm in Brazil. So this encourages the countries to report it locally first before reporting it into iARMS. And then we have an official record date on which the record was created. So on save, the user is taken to the page where all the existing records declared by his or her country exist. Now let's say data manager from Brazil logs out, and as the firearm was seized in Argentina, Mr. Michael Smith from Argentina has logged in into the system. What he will do is he will go to the search page and he will supply 3 digits of the serial number that the firearm that he is interested in. And there is a thing called an equivalent search. This is a search mechanism where a search will be conducted also for equivalence characters. For example, L, it could be a 1, 5 could be an S. If there is an obliteration on the firearm, this could be changed. So we allow enabling equivalent search so that AL5 will be searched for A15, A1S, and AL1, LS. So in this case, the user selected no for equivalent search, and it says no results were found. And the user selects yes, there are some results because of the replacement of the characters, and these are the firearm records reported into the database with the serial number starting with A15. Now the user compares the make, model, caliber of the firearm that his country has just seized, and then he can shortlist based on the type of the firearm. And he selects the firearm that matches the most to the firearm in question. The system asks a question whether the user has verified the caliber, make, model, and serial number. And if the user selects yes, it takes to a page where the system prompts the user to enter the reason for viewing the record, and it also indicates that viewing of this record sends a formal hit notification to the country which owns the record. So repeated viewing could send duplicate notifications, so the system prompts the user to download or export the details of the record before quitting from the page. So here the reason for viewing is set as firearm seized, and an official record ID for the seizure of the firearm is also provided. And on click of view, the button view will send a notification to the country of origin, the country which reported the firearm record, that is Brazil. And here when Argentinian search user Michael Smith views the full details of the record, there is also a clue that says there are 2 other firearm records that have been reported with the same official record ID. So this helps, this gives a clue that there are other firearms circulating which are illicit and have been reported by Brazil with the same official record ID. So the user logs out of the system, and this is the hit notification that's sent to Brazil. It says the details of the firearm record, and it has been viewed by the user Michael Smith from Argentina with the profile border control on particular date and time, and for the recent firearm seized. And it also shows the period that the user used to search, and there will be a sent also that is indicated on the hit. So this is a direct scenario. Now I will go back and explain the second scenario, which we call the trace scenario. This is when Brazil seized a firearm, and John Doe, in this case a search user, searches for the firearm in the database. He doesn't find the firearm record in the database. So this user is prompted to submit a trace request to the country of manufacture or legal import of the particular firearm. So let's assume in this case it's Argentina who manufactured the firearm. John Doe submits a trace request into the database, which sends a notification to Argentina and also will appear in the incoming trace requests box of Argentina. And Michael Smith, who is a trace responder from Argentina, responds to the trace request with a trace response, and that goes to Brazil through the system. And then if the answer is satisfactory, John Doe could close the trace with the answer that the answer provided by Argentina was satisfactory, and the case is closed. I can quickly show a video that demonstrates this scenario. So let's assume here John Doe, who is a search user from Brazil, searches for a firearm record. He supplies at least 3 digits of the serial number of the firearm. In this case he has more, so he searches for it, and the database says there are no results found, and the user is prompted to submit a trace request. It says please submit a trace request, and on click of this link it will take to the submission page, and the trace ID is automatically assigned. It has the 2-digit ISO country code and the date on which the trace was submitted and the time, and the last 6 digits is a unique identity created by the database. This allows the users to easily sort down and filter the outgoing trace requests. For countries which submit a lot of trace requests, this identification allows them to easily shortlist the traces. And then we also allow the user to enter a national reference. This is the trace request ID that was created for the trace request in their national system, if they have one. This is not a mandatory field, but we allow the users to enter it. The serial number with which the user searched for the firearm is already automatically filled. And then we also prompt the user to enter make, model, caliber. And we have a link to the IFRT here. So let's say the user knows the make and the caliber, but not the model. So the user can consult IFRT, enter the available information and get the missing parts, and come back here to report because they are all mandatory fields. So in this case, the country of legal import is Argentina. And then again we ask for an official record ID for the seizure of the firearm. And there is a list of reason for which trace was initiated. In this case it's investigation for a crime gun, and urgency is critical. And then the requested data is automatically filled based on the user who is submitting the trace request. And then the user could also give additional information like email and phone number for quicker resolution. And on save, this user will be redirected to the page that is outgoing trace requests page. This is like the outbox of our email systems. And then this user will be able to view the record in the list. And submission of this trace request would have sent an email notification to Argentina, and this is the email notification received by Argentina. It says the trace ID, serial number, make, model, caliber, and there is a link that will take the user directly into the page of incoming trace requests, which is like the inbox for trace requests. Now the Argentinian trace responder logs into the system and he goes to the link which says manage incoming trace requests. Clicking on this link will take to the inbox of trace requests, and he could choose the trace request that has just arrived and then have a look into the details submitted by the submitting user from Brazil. And here there are two options for the user. That is, he can either report the trace request as answered without supplying an answer in the system. That is, we also allow the trace responders to send an email to the submitting country with the answer. For example, if it contains nominal information, they could just send an email to the country with an answer and then just update the status in the system. Or answer the trace requests where they have to enter an answer in the system which will be communicated to the submitting country. So in this case the user chooses to answer through the system, so he selects answer and he gives an answer. So along with the answer he could also add some attachments like pictures and PDF files and so on. So now a notification is sent to Brazil that there has been an answer provided by an Argentinian user, Michael Smith. And the answer, it also shows the answer here in the email. So now the user from user from Brazil logs in back to the system, and if the answer is satisfactory, he sets the trace request status as closed. So he goes to the outgoing trace requests page and he chooses the trace request for which an answer has been received. He views he doesn't view the answer here because in its configuration, Brazil has said that don't store answers in the database. This is one of the configuration parameters that we allow the country administrators to decide. They could choose not to save the answers in the database. What we are concerned about is the status of the trace request from open to closure. So here, as I said, like in emails, the trace request could also be resubmitted to another member country. Let's assume an answer from Argentina was to submit it to Paraguay with some relevant useful information. So Brazil could resubmit the trace request to Paraguay. In this case, the answer was received, so the user will click on the link update the status, where the logical next status of the trace request is completed, and the reason is provided here. So this is the trace scenario, the second scenario of the iARMS system. So in terms of production support, we do conduct trainings, classroom-based and web-based trainings. We have developed an e-learning module at Interpol, which is uploaded into the IGLC, which is the Interpol Global Learning Center. And the access requests for member countries are also treated. So we help countries connect to the system, and we explain how to configure access. Normally the NSO, the National Security Officer of the country, can himself configure access to the system. And we also provide user guides for all the different roles. And the standard operating procedures, which are under development now, will also be available for the member countries. And we do offer a 5 days by 8 hours technical support. A 3-level support desk has been created at Interpol, so the member countries could contact IPSG Interpol Lyon in the working hours of Interpol. And bulk upload support, we continue to talk to countries to provide us the data that they have as a bulk. It could be a CSV or XML. So we have tools which could upload them into the database in very less time. So this will allow business as usual for countries which want to switch from their national system to Interpol's iARMS system, or if they are managing records in non-network based database in Excel sheets or something like that. It will be very easy to upload them into the database. So for iARMS version 2, which is currently under development, it started on 1st of January 2013. The first feature is B2B. We are trying to connect our iARMS database to national and regional databases across the world. And then we have intelligence analysis as one of the proposed features for version 2. That is, we will use intelligence analysis tools like Palantir or I2 Analyst Notebook to derive critical information of the database that we have. And then we also plan to integrate iARMS into MIND, which is called Mobile Interpol Network Database. And iARMS will be available in USB sticks or external hard drives, so the users do not have to connect through I-24/7 in order to search. If the users are on a border control or customs area, they could use this device. They could just connect the USB into their laptop and they could search for it. And IFRT integration is one of the phase 2 features. As we saw, currently we just have a consult option where we can go into IFRT, look for values and fill in manually. But for phase 2, we are trying to seamlessly integrate iARMS to IFRT so that they can search in IFRT and import values from IFRT directly into iARMS forms. And then we will also create a firearms experts group online forum, which we call it ARMSnet forum. So using this form, the firearms experts across the world could organize events, share messages, post status or other information. It will be a Facebook plus plus for firearms experts across the world. So these are the features of iARMS version 2, and we are hoping to launch the version 2 before end of 2014. So that's it. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer. Yes, sure.
Thanks, Nan. So that's pretty much an overview of iARMS. As I said to you up front, it's brand new, obviously. I'm kind of excited about it because I know like Canada has their system, the US has their system, but this is the first one that really globally will take a look at firearms trafficking, potentially give countries the ability to trace weapons, to enter weapons into a system. As you can see, it's 100% dependent upon countries entering weapons in there up front, either when they're lost, stolen, trafficked, or smuggled, and then also then respond to a trace when one country sends a request to another country. So that, I mean, if you see, I mean, if we agree that all countries, that this is going to be good for them, countries are going to have to participate. Because I can only speak for the US, we have a brick and mortar building in Martinsburg, West Virginia, where traces come into there and then that building completes a trace and sends it back out. But in this case, we're talking about the potential of 190 countries. We can't do that from the Interpol. So what we're doing is providing the tools and the services and the ability to trace a weapon. But it's 100% dependent on countries to respond to other countries. And we try to build in the safety features, as Nanda talked about, that in this world we know that there's some countries that don't want to talk to other countries. And so that ability is there that if somebody does not want to do it, they don't have to do it. But what we were trying to do as a concept, and what Nanda's explained to you, is really, I've said it before, is shrink the world. We're trying to bring the world together to cooperate and identify, because you can see the potential as he put up on some of the charts. We can do trafficking patterns. We can, I mean, potentially some countries may not know where their weapons are coming from. If you start to populate this database and people respond to you in a trace request, you're obviously then going to be able to start to pull data out of there to analyze and see, maybe I've got a problem from country B, or I've got guns coming from country C that I really didn't ever know that before. So there's going to be some analytical tools on the backside of this that people, the countries themselves are going to be able to utilize, and then potentially even in Interpol, where I am, if I can get a few more bodies there to help out, we will be able to analytically take a look at this data too, and to be able to extract things out of there and maybe call an NCB in a particular country and say, I don't know if you know it, but you have a potential problem because weapons are coming, looks like, from this country into your country. So there's a lot that we can do with it to look globally, and then there's a potential that each one of your countries can take a look at it and say, okay, tell me, how many guns did I have stolen last year? How many guns did I put in that were smuggled or trafficked? And so there is that analytical tool that right now it's available, but until we get more data in there, it's probably not going to be real effective today. But as I'm learning as at Interpol, we've got a lost and stolen documents database, something very similar to this. It started out, I think, 7 years ago. Today, they were telling me that there's about 42 million records. So if you can imagine the same type of thing, the magnitude of having weapons put into there, once you start to get that amount of weapons in something like this, there's going to be a huge amount of data that we can extract out of it. So, as I told you up front, my message is that this is brand new, and for it to be effective and for it to be useful, countries have to use it. It's not something that's going to benefit us. It's purely there to benefit each one of the 190 member countries. So, with that, I will open it up if there's any questions that we can try to answer for you.
I think for two things. To introduce this program, I think the NCBs will have a lot to do for them to promote that program to resource like us in Canada. We'll have to promote it to the RCB, which hopefully will see but I think the NCBs have a lot to do with promoting this program if you want to be successful.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, behind the scenes, we've sent messages out to each one of the 190 NCBs telling them we've done it on multiple occasions to let them know that this, it started out as a pilot project in October of last year, so it ran for 3 months as a pilot with 22 countries. We were notifying people at that point. Then January 1, we started notifying the NCBs again. So We put out numerous messages to all the NCBs in the country to say exactly what you just said. Get out there and tell people that this is available. We just had a meeting in Lyon about a month ago of all the heads of the NCBs come into Lyon for a meeting. And I think there was probably about 120 heads came in. And I was able to make a presentation to them, again, alerting them to that this system is out there. So we're trying to do the best we can. We're a team right now of 3 people. I'm starting to travel quite a bit to just mention this, to mention Ivan, which we're also working with the ballistic, everything we're talking about here for the 3 days. So it's an educational process, but as we get the NCBs, as we do train-the-trainer type things, we're looking at those. And as it starts to grow, one country will start talking to another saying, hey, are you using this because we're using it? So it's going to be an evolution. We're only 4 months into it. But it's classes like these where we start to get the word out that, hey, this is something that's new, but it's out there. And same thing is when you leave here, you're going to go back home and hopefully it jars something in your mind to say, hey, there might be some value here. Let me look more into this. And your NCB in your country is the first place to go. But we're certainly available to help you out also. It's a challenge because it's not going to start off and be rockets right off the bat. But it's going to be something that I really do think that as people start to use it, they start to see the value of it and start to see that there are potential analytical products that you can pull back out of this. It's going to be something like the Canadians have, like the United States has. It is very, very effective, and it's a tremendous law enforcement tool. This is the first time it's done on a global basis.
Go ahead. I have one more question about the second version, the mobile database. Is that USB key going to be just like information fed on it, or is it going to be wireless communication? What exactly is it going to be?
Mind is something that it's a piece of equipment that as we put people out on the borders doing particularly border operations where they're looking at people crossing the borders, this is something that we can include in that. It's a physical piece of equipment that Interpol puts out to help border control. And we've been doing particular operations on different borders where we actually give this physical equipment to them. It's a mobile device so that they don't have to be right at a computer somewhere. But as somebody's coming across the border and they're checking, and if they get a weapon or something, they can take a look right there. It's going to have to periodically be updated. Yes.
Okay.
We do synchronization of MIND devices with Interpol databases. Currently, MIND has stolen motor vehicles, stolen and lost travel documents, and documents related to Interpol notices. These are the 3 databases currently available in MIND devices, and it is synchronized periodically with the main databases which are hosted in BSG at Interpol. So iARMS will just be another database that will be hosted by MIND devices.
Okay, maybe practical questions. I'm not from a NCB, but I receive all tracing requests, and I saw tracing requests. Can we upload photos, pictures in your system? Because sometimes the identification of the weapon is not so easy. Finally, and we exchange a lot of messages with the other country to know is it the right weapons which is identified.
Yes.
So,
in fact, when you report a firearm to be lost, stolen, smuggled, or trafficked, or when you create a trace request, you can add attachments to the trace request or the report.
okay, and we can exchange emails or data through this system. If I ask some details to the other country, I can send not another tracing request, but I can exchange.
You can just forward the trace request to another country.
No, I would say, okay, I have the picture, but I'm not sure this is the weapons.
Yes, there is a text field called additional information. It acts as a free text box where you can explain your ideas and concerns.
Okay. What about the Schengen system? Because all the reported and stolen weapons in Europe, most of them, we use the Schengen system. So
yes, that's a part of the B2B.
okay.
So we are talking to different regional and national system administrators of firearm records and trace request database. Schengen is one of the targets for us for B2B.
So it will be for the future.
Yes, so whenever a firearm record is created in iARMS, it will be replicated in Schengen and vice versa. and it also will do a parallel search. For example, if a user searches for a firearm record in iARMS, there will be a parallel search conducted at Schengen, at the NCIC in the US and in Australia parallelly, and the results will be compiled together and be shown in iARMS.
And what about the tracing request with 300 weapons? For example, we received right now to Belgium, we have the IFFS, one of the biggest weapons producer, and sometimes we receive requests with 300 weapons to trace from Colombia, Venezuela. Does it mean that we have to use one
No.
tracing request? One
No,
by
as
one?
I showed you earlier, let me go back to the slide.
Also, to your second point, as we referenced with the IFRT, that's the Interpol Firearms Reference Table. I hate acronyms, but it's a firearms reference table. I'm an old guy, so I equate it to being like an encyclopedia. We get it from the RCMP right now yearly. That can be another resource that if you've got, and I've used it in the US with witnesses before, and somebody pointed a gun at them and they said, well, I saw this great big barrel and it was a big black gun. Well, we can go into this and start to look, okay, a big black gun, let's figure out, was it a wheel on it? No. Was it, okay, so it's a pistol. And we can start to go down, so you can use that IFRT as kind of a reference material to maybe help you. If you've got something in front of you, you can start to go in there and look. If you have some identifier on it, if you've got a name on it, a caliber on it, I mean, it'll start to narrow down your search a little bit. It may not get to where you want to be, but it is a reference table that I do find very, very effective for trying to research weapons.
Maybe just about the IFRT, most of in my country who has access to this table, NCV and my office, which means people who normally know something about weapons, and it's not the police officer on the field. So that's the problem. Maybe just a national product that I think will give it the next step. We get a version of the IFRT on first piece. Do this.
To answer your question about uploading multiple trace requests at once, we have an option called process by batch, where you can create up to 15,000 trace requests in an Excel sheet. You can upload it yourself, log out of the system, come back the next day or after an hour, and check the status of the batch upload. But if it's above 15,000 and you want to do all of them at once, you can send that CSV to us. We will do the upload at IPSG. We don't allow member countries to do upload more than 15,000 records because it may slow down the system. We could do it at the back end at IPSG. This will allow the bandwidth available to all the member countries. So 15,000 is the maximum limit for member countries.
And my last question is, what about the weapons with different serial numbers? Perhaps you have it. You have one numbers on the barrel, one number on the grip, one number. So can we use it?
You can put the most prominent serial number in the serial number field, and the rest could be entered in additional information. You mentioned that there are multiple serial numbers, and these are those information.
Thank you.
With the B2B, what sort of messaging is being used?
We will use web services and through a secure communication channel, because there is already B2B between Interpol's stolen motor vehicle database and US NCIC's stolen motor vehicle database. So we will inspire from it and use the same mechanism for B2B.
Well, can you set alerts on conditions that are met across the database? For example, if within your database in 2 different countries, for example, gun traces were submitted and the responses came back to the same address or the same purchaser's name, could you automatically alert that there's 2 of the same addresses on 2 separate traces in the database?
The system sends alerts for every stage of the trace request workflow or the seizure and reporting of firearms. You could set these as rules in your Microsoft Outlook to filter all those notifications that come from a particular country or that talk about this type of firearm, and you could group them in your Microsoft Outlook. But the system will send a notification for each stage of the trace request. We have no option to configure alerts based on specific parameters.
Okay. And so if one country does a trace and it comes back to Pete Gagliardi, will they know that there have been other traces submitted by other countries or the same country in which a trace came back to Pete Gagliardi? You'd have to run that report. So it wouldn't be automatic.
Yes, they would not be on that.
And then, okay, so same thing would be like if I said anything with a time to crime of less than 1 year from purchase, that couldn't be set automatically either.
I don't think so, no. And I know where you're going, and I don't think we're necessarily going. And that may be something that we can look at in the future. I mean, the challenge, and you and I are operating from the U.S. side of things, the challenge is that we're going to be dependent on one country on the other on responding, what information they give. It's not going to be the standard package that we get from at least the U.S. side of tracing, where it's a standard form that comes back and it's in a standard place that all the records are back.
On the other hand, the firearms record module, right? A country could use that to maintain their firearms in acquisition and disposition.
This is crime system, so. Are you talking?
Oh, so firearms record management is strictly crime gun record management?
Yeah, but it's a lost, stolen, trafficked, or stolen illicit firearm.
And if an agency queries a stolen firearm in that system today, and let's say they don't get anything back, is there a record kept in their query where if later on somebody queries or inputs it as stolen, it could link them to it?
Yes. IPSG will receive a notification if there are two different searches, two searches conducted from two different places with the same search criteria. IPSG will receive a notification.
That's very helpful.
For those nations that have an import market system identified as a product previously imported, should you initiate a trace of the country with the most recent import market, or do you have to start from the manufacturer?
We actually recommend to send a trace request to the last known legal importer, not the manufacturer of the files. It's also mentioned in the contextual help. If you know both the country of manufacturer and the country of last known legal importer, we recommend you to input the country of last known legal importer.
Just one more question. Follow up with this question. The retention period for a record, is it like the other notice is 5 years, and after 5 years we have to reevaluate the necessity to keep it listed, or
Yes.
is it like the travel documents where it's there for indefinite?
No, actually, we have a country administrator screen where the country administrator sets the parameters like validity period and archival period. If the country administrator decides not to archive the firearms once the validity period is over, to choose 0 as validity period. And we allow the countries to set this parameter according to their national legislations. And we don't impose any particular time period on the countries.
So let's say the country puts in retention of 5 years, we'll get a notice from the PSG to us.
Yes, and there is also a parameter which says time from which a notification should be sent. Record expiration alert should be sent. And so they are all configurable. So if the country administrator says that the system should send a notification 1 month before the expiry of a firearm record, it will do that. It will collect all the firearm records about to expire in 1 month, put them together in an email and send to the country.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if you guys are going to another thing with 330 but it's just passed. We can stay, and I'm more than happy to. If you've got something else you want to go to, it's just past 330. But
I didn't notice on the trace request input form, is there a place for imported mark on there?
No important marks. But a picture of the important mark will be attached to the trace request. So we allow attachments.
Thank you.
Here is more question. Will you upload the data from the Europol information system in your system? Because I have to trace the weapons through the Europol channel, and I just my tracing request to Germany, which means that the travel service is not from your own system. When you have access, so when you get this information and put this information at the international level, or
If Europol and Interpol will come to an agreement for B2B, you don't have to import the data into the system. It will automatically be synchronized between iARMS and Europol's system.
Your ARMS network of experts, what is that going to be open to? If it's, you're obviously you're responding agencies, as far as you can, it'll be analysis, but there's obviously a great level of expertise across Canada. Who's going to be involved in that group and what
We haven't fully fleshed it out yet. The concept is we want to pick just a small group, let's say small from around the world, to kind of be a forum. If you have a question about maybe she's a weapon that you absolutely can't identify, she's down in Zimbabwe a couple of weeks ago. A couple of firearms examiners were looking at that they had suit and had absolutely no idea what it was. That would be the kind of thing that we would use this group for. So it would be a very small, very defined group of people we're going to select and have them be that expert kind of group that, like, I'm not a Twitter person, but you could post something like that on a system that, hey, I have a question about X gun, or I've got this picture, can you take a look at it? Does anybody know about it? So we haven't totally flushed it out yet. It's our phase 2 proposal, but it is, we're going to be looking to reach out to very specific people to ask them to be part of this group and then open it up to everybody that they can participate.
Just a follow-up to that, it would be of interest to me, I think the IFRS, that if you didn't close the loop and identify a firearm that wasn't in the IFRS, we'd like to know that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I've had other people ask me the same thing. So I mean, as we find out about it, in particular because we participate in dealing with something, we would reach back and say, hey, you got something here. But it would be valuable for us to have somebody from RCMP on it because it's just the fact that I have our team to do. Any other questions? All right, well, like I said before, it's brand new. I hope that your takeaway from this is that it's something that I think you see value of, I certainly do. And it's, and there are issues that we still need to deal with. Sometimes it's going to be dual entries potentially. But I think there is a huge value in this as we start to build this in the out years. You're going to start to be able to extract that out of it. So we're available if anything comes up in the next couple of days. I'm here, but as you go back home and there's issues, first go to NCDs, but we're certainly in the IPSG level, we're here to help. So thank you very much for coming, and hopefully we talk to you sometime in the future.